Hey, it's Matt Haynes, and today I am reviewing the Corona mic from Sontronics, which is a dynamic microphone, and this is such an elegant microphone. I just love the way it looks, but the looks aren't everything, so we need to hear how it actually performs. Now, Sontronics makes a guitar amp microphone called the Halo, and the Corona mic is inspired by that microphone. But of course, the Halo, it's optimized for guitar, not voice. Now, according to Sontronics, they had a huge number of requests from customers for a vocal mic with the same look, so they designed the Corona. The microphone only comes with one accessory, and that's, well, hang on. That's a hard shell case. However, it's a very sturdy case, and I think you could drop this case from a really great height and it would still have the microphone survive. The Corona has a supercardioid polar pattern, which, at least in theory, means it's going to be more directional than a regular cardioid mic. Also, it should have more of a proximity effect. But is that true? We're going to have to find out, so I'll test that in a moment. But first, let's talk about some specs. Now, here's a frequency response graph for the Corona, and you'll notice it has a slight bump in the low end, but it's only about 2 dB at 150 hertz. However, it has a much larger rise in the high end, topping out at around, 6 or 7 dB at 7 kilohertz or so, and then it drops off sharply around 10 kilohertz. So this makes for a very in-your-face vocal mic, at least on paper. Now, considering the mic is probably meant to be used very close to the mouth, the proximity effect is going to balance out the tone a little. The mic is pretty typical for dynamic mics when it comes to sensitivity. In other words, it's really quiet at minus 50 dB. However, that could be worse. The Shure SM7B, for example, is rated at minus 59 dB. But again, that's just the nature of dynamic microphones. They're all low gain unless you have some sort of signal booster attached. So you will need a decent preamp to use this mic, but on the plus side, you don't need phantom power. So you may have noticed that the capsule itself is suspended in this ring with springs. And that looks cool, but it also serves a practical purpose of shock absorption. So let's test that out. Now I'm going to tap on the capsule itself. Tapping pretty hard there. Now I'm going to tap on the ring. Now the ring itself is going to make some noise. You'll hear that, but what we're trying to do is see if any sound is being transmitted into the microphone itself. All right, now I'm going to tap on the mic stand here. Now I'm going to demonstrate the proximity effect, which I think is pretty significant. And what I'll do is I'm going to be different distances from the microphone, and I will balance out the volume in post so that you can get a sense of how the actual low-end frequency response changes. This is with my mouth actually touching the front of the microphone, and this is 1 finger away from the microphone, and this is 2 fingers away from the microphone, and this is 4 fingers away from the microphone, and now I'm 2 fists away from the microphone. As I mentioned, this is a supercardioid microphone, so it's going to have more fall off as you get off axis. It's going to be more directional than a regular cardioid microphone. So let's try it out. This is directly on axis at 0 degrees. This is at 45 degrees to the front of the microphone. This is at 90 degrees to the front of the microphone. And this is about 120 degrees at the microphone. And I can't make it all the way around to the back of the microphone, but it should show a little bit more sensitivity there. I noticed very early on when I started using this microphone that it was very sensitive to proximity effect and very directional. So I took it apart, basically. I took the front grill off, the back grill, and I noticed that the capsule is right behind the front grill. There's no air gap whatsoever. And that is going to make it even more sensitive to proximity effect. And the reason is because a lot of broadcast microphones actually build in some space between the diaphragm and the end of the microphone. And that means if you move a little bit here or there, the ratio of the distance isn't changing that much. But when you've got a capsule right up against the grill, any little change is kind of magnified. So you do have to be aware of that with this microphone. So when I took this microphone apart, I noticed that there was quite a bit of plosive protection built in. Right behind the grill, there is a metal mesh, and behind that there is some foam. And then the actual capsule is in this sort of ring or cylinder of foam as well. Also, I noticed that there was what looked like this clear plastic over the capsule, but it turns out that's a really fine mesh. Now, One of the reasons that's there is to keep out iron filings and little iron particles, because there's a magnet in here. There's a magnet in every dynamic microphone, and over time it collects little bits of metal to it, and then it kind of degrades your sound. So that's keeping the metal out, but it's also adding another layer of plosive protection. So with all that said, we should probably check the plosive, see how it responds. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. As with every Sontronics mic I've ever gotten my hands on, this is a gorgeous microphone, and that alone makes me want to use it all the time. It also sounds great, and it does a decent job of handling pops and plosives. But will I use this? Well, the supercardioid pattern is less forgiving of off-axis input, and this might be frustrating to content creators who want to have the mic off to one side. However, the supercardioid pattern can be really useful for live performances for singers, and that's because it helps reject noise from, the rest of the band, as well as stage monitors behind the microphone. You also have to be very consistent with your mic technique, and I do recommend keeping a little distance between you and the mics. Since the capsule's right there behind the grill, you're going to get a lot of variation in sound if you're up close. Slight movements will have a much larger impact when you're that close. So move away a little and the change won't be as noticeable. I think overall, vocalists will have an easier time with this than content creators. And as gorgeous as it is, I don't want it directly in front of my face. I want it off to the side, kind of like what I'm doing right now. But when it's off to the side, I have to be really careful not to turn away from it. And I made a previous video using this mic, and I wasn't paying attention to my mic technique. And as a result, I had to make a lot of audio adjustments in post. So for example, if I were suddenly to look over my computer here, the volume level drops quite a bit. Now, if you're doing off-camera work like voiceovers or podcasts, then you can position the Corona where it sounds best. So for vocalists, yes, the mic is a definite win, but content creators, only if you're prepared for its peculiarities. Now, personally, I'm going to work on my mic technique more because the Corona mic makes me want to use it.